This is my first ever vlog. I am a freelance programmer and I do iOS applications programming as a living. I have been a freelancer for about 5 to 6 years now, and that's the reason why I started this vlog. I want to share some tips on how you can start doing some freelance jobs, whether on your spare time or as a full-time job. I will be talking about programming freelance jobs, particularly some remote or work from home jobs. So I'm gonna start with my first tip. Tip number 1. First is to gain experience from working on a physical office. So this applies to fresh graduates or anyone without experience yet, or anyone who has too little experience working on real companies, real products. So please don't count your college projects as a work experience, because it's totally different when you're working on a real project with real teammates and real professionals with real deadlines. So when you gain more experience, you will become more confident with your skills, and when you're confident, applying for a job will be a breeze. As part of gaining more experience is to look for a senior developer whom you can learn from. So when I started doing some freelance jobs, I was still a junior developer back then. So I'm always working with a senior developer, and I learned to do things by looking at his codes. So I learned some project architecture, code readability, code reusability, and a lot more just by working with a senior developer. And another thing about gaining experience is also to work on small different projects. So it's totally different when you're working on just one project for about 2 to 3 years than when you're working on several small projects for 2 to 3 years. So your knowledge on working with just one project is limited to the design specification of that project. When you also apply for a job and you wrote there that you have 2 to 3 experience, and the list of projects you have under your portfolio is just one project, it doesn't look too enticing for me if I am a recruiter. So it really helps when you try to work on small projects, even if it's just your personal project. So you have to gain more experience by working on different projects. My second tip number 2, is to befriend colleagues who have freelance jobs. So add them up on Facebook or on Twitter, and you will see these people posting freelance jobs from time to time, especially if one of their clients is looking for more engineers. The third tip is to not go full-time immediately. So what I meant is that if it's your first time doing freelance remote jobs, don't resign from your current job immediately. I have to tell you that it is risky when you do freelance jobs, especially if you are a direct hire of the client. So what I meant by direct hire is that if you are not using any platform like Odesk, and you are directly communicating with the client, and the client directly pays you your salary, so that's a direct hire. Unfortunately, there are some clients who doesn't pay. So that's very common to the freelance community. There are some clients who doesn't pay, or some will pay immediately, and some will also take weeks and weeks of delay before they give you your paycheck. And the others will just ignore you when it comes to your payment. So it's really risky to give up on your current full-time job, especially if you're new to freelancing. So I started doing freelance jobs as a part-time job, and I work around 4 hours in the evening. It's very doable as long as you have no other obligations like parenthood. So don't worry though, because if your clients like your work, they will take the initiative to offer you for a full-time position. And that's the time you can consider going full-time on your freelance job. And what are my conditions before accepting a full-time freelance position? So I have 4 conditions that I take into consideration before I accept the full-time position. So first, that client must pay you on time. And if there is a delay, the delay should not go beyond 1 week. So if your client was always delayed in giving you your salary, that's a red flag, as that will keep on happening for how many months until they stop paying you. The second is if they're good clients. So if they respect you as an engineer, they don't discriminate you, they don't care if you're a woman or you're from a third world country, your race, if it doesn't matter for them, and they respect you as an individual. So I consider them as a good client. And the third is that the new monthly salary that they offered is good enough for you. So what I mean is that if you are satisfied with the monthly salary that they offered, perhaps it's twice your current job salary, perhaps even bigger, then you'll definitely be happy with the offer, and it can definitely help you on your finances. And number 4, they should also offer sick and vacation leaves, and they should also honor your country's holidays. So most of my full-time freelance employers honor the holidays here in the Philippines. So if you are now hired to a freelance job, so what more tips can I give you? First, if you're doing it as a part-time job, most clients will be paying you in a per hour basis or an hourly rate. I suggest that you keep track of your tasks and time by creating a simple spreadsheet with date and time that you started and ended working on a particular task. And a column of the things that you have done are simply your task description. So please be honest on your number of hours that you spent in doing your task, as this is the way that you can build trust with your client. So here's an example of the spreadsheet. In this way, when you send your invoice to your client, you can attach this spreadsheet, which they can check and which they can confirm themselves if you have really done those tasks by checking the app through your builds or through the website or any other finished product that you have shown them. So if they have questions on the number of hours spent on a particular task, answer them politely. As a developer, what if you're stuck on a particular problem or a particular task and you've spent hours researching on how to implement or how to solve that problem? Do you include that number of hours in your invoice? So for me, I don't include all the hours I did on my research. Perhaps I just put in 30 minutes to 1 hour for the research, even though I spent 4 hours researching or more. So research plus actual work done to implement it might actually take a long time, and it might result to a huge number of hours in your invoice. So when that happens, your client might think that you're deceiving them, and we don't want them to feel that way. So even if we are not deceiving them, let's at least be considerate on the number of hours, and let's not put a lot of hours for the research. And for me, to be honest, if it's a new client, I don't mind putting in minimum number of hours for my first project, because my purpose is to build trust with the client. And once that trust is established, there's a huge chance that they will contact me to do another project for them. So when that happens, so it's a win situation for me. And finally, always be honest with your employer when they ask you about the status of the project. Always give them a build if you're doing an app, or an access to the website that you're working, or always show them something to prove that you have done your job and to show them the progress of your project. So it may be just a simple video presentation of the current progress of the project that you're working on. So that will be enough to assure them that you are working on a specific part of the project. So next is the referral. What if your client asks you if you know other freelancers who can work with them? If you're going to refer someone, I urge you to only refer people that you know personally, and someone who has good work ethic, and someone that you have previously worked with. So what if they don't pay you? What do I do? First, if I send my invoice and I don't get a confirmation receipt from them, I will send a follow-up email after a week. I'm just giving them a benefit of the doubt that perhaps they didn't receive the invoice. Perhaps they got too many emails and was not able to see the invoice I sent them. And sometimes I also send them a chat message telling them that I already sent them my invoice. And if they don't pay me after a month that I sent my invoice, and after sending them follow-up emails, then that's the time that I will pull out all my codes from the repository and then send them my resignation letter. So why bother sending them a resignation letter? For me, a resignation letter is a reflection of who I am as a professional. It's a formal letter telling them that I won't be working for them anymore since they haven't paid me for the job that I have done for the past couple of weeks. And then at least they won't be left hanging even though they're the ones who didn't pay. They won't be left hanging, and they won't wait for me to come back because I already gave them my resignation letter. So it's like I quit, no more, and this is the final straw. It's a good practice to send your resignation letter even though it's just a freelance employer. So, and what if you don't have colleagues who can refer you to a freelance job? Can you still find one? Yes, of course, you can find one. There are lots of remote opportunities found online, and when I am actively looking for a job, I always update my LinkedIn profile, my website, and my Stack Overflow profile. So I'm going to list here the websites that I frequently visit when I'm looking for a new job. I have here the remote.ok.io, the Stack Overflow jobs, and the LinkedIn jobs. So there are lots of websites that I have come into when I tried to upload my resume to LinkedIn. Since some of the apply button will redirect you to a different website. So yeah, those websites, I'm telling you, there are hundreds, possibly thousands of applications on those websites. So don't expect that once you have sent your resume, then that's it, you're done. So keep on looking, keep on sending those resumes to those job postings, and make sure that you qualify for the position. And if there is a project definition, you must be confident that it is something that you can do. And next is the rates. So before I can give suggestions on the rates, I want you to know that your rates or your salary is something personal. So your rate is something that you think you deserve of, you think that you're worthy of. So if you think too lowly of yourself and your skills, you will end up asking for a low-paying freelance job. So here it goes. If you're working as a part-time freelancer, so you have to take into consideration your skills and your level of experience. So if you know someone who has more experience than you, so try to ask that person how much he asked for his hourly rate. So for example, when I first started my freelance job, I was a junior developer, and I know someone who is a senior developer also doing some freelance job. So when he gave me his hourly rate, I lowered my hourly rate based on his rate. So a good monthly offer for me is if they have offered at least twice of my current salary or even more. That's a good enough reason for me to give up on my current job and focus full-time on my freelance. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all of the tips that I can give you from my 5 to 6 years experience as a freelance programmer, or as a freelancer in general. So if you have more questions, you can write it down in the comments below. And I hope that if you like this video, you can push the thumbs up button and perhaps subscribe as well. And see you on my next video. Bye.